we're talking about signature corsages, and I spoke with a couple of you about your area and things like that. So in training from Fitz, we learned how to do everything from the uber traditional, which is still the wiring and taping method, to the non-traditional, which is a little more in adding unique elements, using unique bracelets and things like that. Dan Fisher, the owner of Fitz, stays very well up on the trends and what's coming in with prom dresses, and he himself does amazing research. I don't even think the man sleeps. I really don't think he does. But he comes up with new products, and when they make the line, that means there's been certain orders for them, that he's had great response from designers and things like that. So when they officially make the Fitz line, with over 1,500 SKUs, he definitely has put his research in. I told the ladies here that were here earlier, every Fitz, he thinks about everything. Every Fitz bag is made with a little pull tab like this, and they come usually on a little plastic piece like this. Now, this is the Lolita bracelet, which is one of my favorites. It comes in white lace, also, which is very popular in my area. I think we're seeing a lot of lace coming back into prom dresses and such. But I also use these for mother of bride. My store, we do a lot of weddings and events. We do a little bit of prom, but it's more the specialty pieces. I don't do mass production of 50 to 100 plus. We may do, I don't know, 6 or 12 on a weekend. But we get the more specialty kind that wants something a little bit different, more of a signature style. But they all of these come with little plastic. And I'm going to go through this. Some of you might be familiar with how to use these products, some might not. But they all come with this little plastic flange, which is what you're going to glue to if you use glue. If you do taping and wiring, you can still go ahead at this point and make your bow or however you want to do it. But it always comes with these. You don't necessarily always cut these off to begin with. Okay? If you want to keep your flange on, and simply it's just wrapped, the ribbon is wrapped underneath, so they have a keepsake bracelet afterwards. So that's the important part in the selling technique, is that of course you get them to upsell with these bracelets. That way, I'll always make sure to not knot again. Sometimes they're knotted, but I double knot just to make sure. And I wanted to specifically use this bracelet because it's really, really flimsy. And I don't know if you have a bar that you work on. I know here they sell those display racks, which if you don't have one, you definitely need to get one because there's two reasons. One, it's a lot quicker if you're doing mass quantity to slide them on and do a bunch at one time. So you're not holding them, putting them down and picking them up. Then on the flip side, when you're done or you have a display in your store, you have a way to use it again as well. So it's not just sitting on the shelf. So once you get to this point and you've knotted it, it comes with this little plastic piece inside, so don't just toss it away. You can see here, I simply just cut a little bitty rectangle in the side. So you just take your scissors and literally just cut right in. Especially if you glue, this helps a lot to keep the glue off of the bracelet because you do want to sell it as a keepsake. So you just slide it right inside, right in between the plastic and the bracelet. There we go. So you just work it right in there. So you can see that your plastic flange is separated from your bracelet. So that way when you're holding it and designing, you're not worried about messing up your nice fancy bracelet. So if you do the wiring and technique and tape, of course you probably, I would assume most corsages would be a little bow made, maybe some tails hanging down, and you glue in about 5 or 6 spray roses, a little bit of Fitz accent bling, and you're done. Which is what you would want to do if you do produce a lot. If you want to get more into the specialty pieces, you definitely want to, and I know Sarah's going to touch on some marketing and things like that, but you want to offer different and unusual things. And the only way to show them different and unusual things is for them to see some. Because we as artists, as floral creators, we can talk about things all day long. Oh, this would be great if we did this, or we can do this. But they want to see something. So whether it's you pre-making some, or you going on the Fitz website, or I know Pioneer has some pictures, that they'll probably graciously let you use, because that's what they want to do. They want to help you market these fancy things. So your average dollar price point on a corsage can go up. Because for the most part, it takes me just as much time to make the bow, and the extra little things as it does for me to create something like this. And it's just time. The more time you do, the more efficient you're going to get at it. And you get to put a little bit of your creativity out there. So they also have these little rolls that I've used to display on. And when you're selling, you want to show people your bracelet, because that's the part that helps you boost that up. There's different ideas of marketing techniques and things. So you can either put them out there and put a price tag on every bracelet, or if you have someone that calls in, if you're in a nice clientele area, they might automatically start at $75. I'm not sure what your market is, but every time you add a little thing in, you can add the price point up and things like that. I know Sarah's probably going to talk about like hosting a prom party and things like that. So there's other ways to upsell to get more into this one little corsage, because it can be $40 or it can be $125. It depends on how much of that pretty bling stuff you put in there, and you have to remember to charge for your creativity. You know, not everybody in your area thinks about putting a butterfly in corsage or thinks about working in unusual things. So thinking outside the box a little bit helps too. So these beautiful bracelets you can see, this offers different styles, different colors. Some have rhinestones, some have pearls, some have both, like this one. They all come with that plastic flange, so you automatically get that. Some of the Color Your World, which are kind of the more economical, different color like pearl style, are actually coming with that metal flange that a lot of you use when you wire and tape. So he actually brought that back because there was a huge request from people who like to wire and tape. So definitely you have both. If you just want to use one, you slide the other one off and put the other one on. So this right here is a great, I kind of was inspired by the bracelet a little bit. They have this great product here with the pearls and a little bit of the glittered accent of the seeded eucalyptus. And I just glued in, all of the ones I did today are permanent. You could do it with fresh, absolutely. So what I did for this one is simply when I got to this point, I glued a little bit of lamb's ear at the base to cover my flange. And I took this, these are actually pearl picks, they're like picks. So I cut them apart and just kind of inverted the stem bases together. And I laid them down and I just took this, because I didn't cut this off yet, because I hadn't decided what I wanted to do. And you just take it and you just knot it around the base of that. So now you have those secured, and then you can just simply start to glue in to that. So kind of the mindset behind not doing that traditional bow with 4 or 5 spray roses is to have something for your flowers to glue into. So like this pearl accent, I kind of made it as my starting grid, not so much that it's the accent part, but it has a great foundation as well. So you know, when you have little things on your table, especially when you're making, you know, things for your store, for mock-ups, and in your store, I would recommend doing the permanent. That way you can keep them, and that way they can see the different things. So if you have those little tidbits left over, then you just take it and create a little boutonniere to match. Yes.
Next question.
Yeah.
Okay, when you do your permanent, just because I hear a lot of people talk about this, do you do that with the glue, or do you do that with pan melt or glue gun? And how do you feel about when people, a lot of friends of mine, like they'll actually glue with the pan melt in their corsages too, and not use the, just so like kind of everybody can know about it. Like.
Yeah, I would recommend for the most part using the cold glue, because no matter what the temperature is, it's going to hold, especially in this area where it gets really cold. In my area where it gets really hot. For time's sake, I use the hot glue on all of these, and hot glue on permanent is okay,
right,
for the fast and efficiency. But if you're using fresh, you definitely need to use just the cold, no hot glue.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that will like start with the hot glue with the bows and stuff, and then they maybe will add.
Yeah, the best thing I think to do is to start with your bow and use this as your mechanic, these little strings, to hold your bow in place, because it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
Some people worry about the glue detaching and the whole thing coming apart, but if you use these, that's kind of your little safety net.
Right.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So with those little extras, bits and baubles that you have laying around, just make up little boutonnieres. And usually, when I sell a corsage, I automatically sell a boutonniere to go with it, because you kind of encourage that because you don't want them to look too different, you don't have to color flower, all that sort of thing. And you want them to look like a complete package because the girls always get the dress. It's important, the dress is the main thing, right? And we accessorize everything. So you call these full accessories like purses or shoes. And sometimes they can cost as much as the purses or the shoes. So you definitely want him to accessorize because his cummerbund or his bow tie match the girl's dress. So he really is just a compliment to her, right? She just needs a way to get to the ball, to the prom. So I just used a little bit of these lacy leaves and cut them apart and added a little bit of this curl into it and then added a little bit of that dazzle for a little movement on him as well. So this one is just taped together just like a traditional boutonniere is. And while I'm on that little topic, especially with fresh, used to you would corsage tape all the way down and take a pencil or and curly cue it back up. But you don't have to do that anymore. People are seeing in magazines that the stems are still exposed now. So it's kind of that new shift and that new trend. I would definitely finish it off with a little embellishment. There are so many nice ribbons on the market or any of the decorative wires, even some of the Fitz wraps and things like that you can use to finish it off to make it look a little more professional and set you apart from the people down the street because you want people to come back to you for great customer service and also your creative ideas and different things. So this is a beautiful bracelet from Fitz. And one thing that I think is good to tailor as well to your clientele, and some people don't know, Fitz offers different size bracelets as well. Sometimes you get the bracelets in and you think, I'm glad they're 16 or 17 years old because there's no way that would fit on, a larger person or little teeny tiny girls who are going to a ballet dance recital or something and the daddies want to get them a little corsage. They make them in the petite size and they also make them in a larger size. Not all the varieties. They have a limited selection, but they're available. So be conscious when you're talking to your customers or you're selling to your customers and notice their size, who they're for, if they show you a picture of the girl in her dress. Kind of make mental notes of that. So you can definitely suggest that because you want them to be comfortable and be able to show off your artistry. So this is a beautiful bracelet from Fitz, and this is a beautiful Duchess rose that they have. And this was the quickest corsage that I made the whole week. I just simply took the flange and glued the lamb's ear and then just simply glued that beautiful rose right on top. They have them in different colors here, which are beautiful. And that's the way you see in the magazines, bridal bouquets, that all of those, everybody wants their flowers open these days, those romantic balloons. If you're doing this with a fresh, you may or may not be able to get your flower to that point to make this, but there are videos, and I actually have a video out where we do a composite rose or a composite orchid. That would be the same technique you would do for this one, to glue the petals out and then glue another petal right into a flower head right into the center. So I would suggest doing that if you're going to do them in fresh as well. But this is great, I think, for mother of the brides too, because they don't want sometimes all the feathers, or you say wrist corsage and they're like, I don't want to look like I'm going to the prom. So this is a very distinguished look for either a mother or another girl who has that beautiful bling and she wants the dress to be the attraction and wants this to just accent her. This is a boutonniere that I made to complement, and this is one of the Fitz brooches. So you can always think about how you can upsell and sell keepsake things. This is definitely a way. You can see I just taped the boutonniere together, and then I just simply put the pin up through the tape, and so that way you can have a little bling and you can have something to keep afterwards. So you'll see how I used a lot of these different brooches throughout the whole segment, throughout the day. So this one, there's a little story about me and traveling to different wholesalers. I don't know where I got it from, but I have some kind of addiction to orange butterflies. Don't ask me how, but I did a wedding show. We primarily do weddings and events in my store, and so we were doing a wedding show, and I always try to, of course, make my booth stand out from the rest and the whole shebang, right? So I created this beautiful tree, and I covered it with 500 orange butterflies. It was beautiful. It was one of my favorite things I've ever done. And, of course, you get all of those back when the show's done. And they all go into a big box, and your designers look at you and they roll your eyes like, what are you going to do with 500 orange butterflies? You had this great idea, but what? So everyday arrangements that went out, it had an orange butterfly. It was almost our signature for a year, right? And so they swore off orange butterflies. They said, don't ever buy an orange butterfly again. But the next time I traveled to a wholesaler, I walked in, they had a beautiful end cap. It was all butterflies. And they had the straight boxes of orange and the straight box. So I took a picture of the orange, and I texted it back home. And they were like, no. They were responding back, like, no. But anytime I see the orange butterflies, I try to work them in just to, send a little text back home. And they're like, well, get all that out while you're traveling. Don't bring any more home. But it just encourages you to think outside the box just a little bit. And this is definitely for a younger girl who wants to think outside the box. And it lets you show a little bit of your creativity as well. So I simply started with one of these fun, colorful bracelets. They come in all different colors with the accent beads. I chose green because green is a pretty popular color from what I'm seeing in the trends for prom attire and such. Kind of that whole Kate Spade look and all that. Green automatically pops into my head, and hot pink and things like that. So I simply just pulled the butterfly apart. So I pulled the little wings out of his little body. Sometimes they come off anyway. So I just removed the middle, and I just inserted 3 little hypericum berries there as his little body. You could do that with little miniature tea roses or spray roses or something like that. Of course, you could do it with any color butterfly. And then I just came back in and accented with a little bit of the foliage. So you could easily recreate this in fresh. And it's very economical, because you can get a butterfly for really inexpensive. But for the look that you get, and when it's there on the arm and they're all lined up taking pictures, who do you think they're going to be envious of? And who do you think they're going to talk about? The one that's different. And they're going to be talking about it in a good way, right? You want people to talk about, but you want people to talk in a good way. So then you can see I just kind of accented for the gentleman. I just did a regular taped corsage, and I added just a couple of little butterfly wings in there, just to give a little accent to match the girl with the little top of the orange orchid. And you can see I had the tape showing, so I finished it off with a little finish of the beautiful ribbon that kind of matched in that same color family. Any questions so far about those? All right. So I don't know if a lot of you follow the trends, but this year Pantone is kind of the go-to for color suggestion, and they set the trends and things like that, and a lot of the industries follow those. Typically you see things come in fashion first, and then they start to come in furniture and home decor, and then they trickle down to us floral artists to incorporate in our things to match those dresses and that attire. So Marsala is the color of the year. And do you already have this available, or is it on order?
It's on order for the fall.
On order for the fall, okay. So this is beautiful color that is pretty much as close to Marsala as you can get, that they're going to carry here in 4 sizes, right? Yeah. So there's little samples of all the different sizes. Anything from what you want to wrap a bridal bouquet in to what you want to wrap a boutonniere in. So a great selection that they're going to have here. And I was really impressed when I came that they offer all the colors of the double-faced satin ribbon. So that's pretty much all we use in my store is the double-faced satin. And it's very rare that you can get somebody who offers all the colors. So definitely a nice little nod to Pioneer for what they have to offer. So I wanted to do a corsage that sort of was an ode to that Marsala color, to that deep color. And a lot of times when you talk about black bracelets or deep colors, people automatically think those kids that are goth and they want to have the little metal studs, and now this offers metal stud bracelets for that group of kids. But also you can do something as beautiful as like this Lolita bracelet that I showed you earlier. Now this is using ribbon, but it's a very different technique of ribbon. It's not a huge bow that I just glued a few flowers into. What I did was I took the number 9 and I simply just cut pieces, and I do this a lot actually, and you kind of start to have your own little signature style. You always want to make sure that your ribbon is finished on the edges, whatever angle you want to cut it on. I love to do the little dovetail technique here, but I just simply cut it on both ends, and I always cut it the wrong way. My scissors always go the wrong direction. So you can see that this is very much of an asymmetrical wristlet. So when you are showing, sometimes the guys pick them up, so you're kind of lost at that point, because it goes in one ear and out the other, right? But if you have the chance to tell the mom or something like that, or when you're selling it, if you know this is what you want to do, then you definitely, obviously, want to tell them that that hangs to the outside. So you would think some people would know that, but sometimes they don't. So you definitely want to do that. Same deal if you were doing this and you want to add a few feathers into it. You know, we've done some with peacock feathers or pheasant feathers or any of the little flutters from from bits, but you can put them in and you can curl them and let them kind of come down and be that drama that you want. So you don't always have to stick just to the top, to the middle. You can let it be embellished, and that way, when you look in prom magazines and such, you can see that some of those dresses are pretty outrageous. So you can kind of draw inspiration from that. You always want to, when you're selling on the phone, to ask, different things about the dress. These days, I would say probably 60% of my customers will text me if they took a dress. So if you don't text, you need to find someone in your shop that does, who has one of those smartphones, who can help you do that. So, because it's definitely a way to text or email, but people love to text these days. So this is a different idea for boutonnieres. If you have seen, like, sometimes GQ and Vogue and things like that set the precedence for men's attire as well. So you can see the very distinguished gentlemen. We're seeing a lot of, like, men wearing more of like a brooch accent as a lapel accent. This is a beautiful little cameo brooch from Fits that they offer, and it's a pin. So I simply just took this piece of ribbon, glued it right to the back, and then I had an orchid that had come apart, so I just glued the orchid back to kind of cover the mechanics a little. Still plenty of room for them to put that straight through there. And then I just wanted it to have that little extra something, that little flair, right? And so I just marked with the dazzle rhinestone to complement this corsage. So you can see that these two could be pairings together. So there's actually a gentleman in my hometown that sells weddings and decor, and his signature, everybody has their own little thing, but he wears cameos as on his jacket every day. So different cameos. So it's interesting. So definitely think a little outside the box, and I wouldn't surprise anyone with this, but if you have one made up in different styles, it's definitely an interesting little thing, especially to recommend for the gentleman, or if you're doing this for an unusual corsage, pin-on corsage, or something like that for ladies' events. Definitely, what lady wouldn't love to have a brooch to keepsake afterwards? So use beautiful brooches and things like that. Is there any questions about the signature corsages? I know that Sarah will go into a little more marketing, and it's hard for me not to run a little bit into this because I'm used to talking about all that too. But everybody knows who Taylor Swift is, right? And all of those prom girls know who Taylor Swift is, right? Yes, and they love her, and they idolize her. And who would not love to come into your shop and promote something as the Taylor corsage? Not that you want to make 50 of the same corsage, but it could be a bracelet, it could be something that you put a little twist to. Even if it's your demo samples, you could call, you could call this one the Taylor, and maybe you've heard of Katy Perry, all these people who these girls love, and you can name your corsages that way, and things like, so they're attracted to things for different reasons. But they love to tweet, they love to Instagram, so if they come into your shop and they're getting something, and you say, oh, this is a Taylor Swift bracelet, I guarantee you 1 out of those 10 girls is going to take a picture of that and tweet it that it's a Taylor Swift bracelet, like that. So, or it's the Taylor. You might not want to say the Swift, but it's the Taylor bracelet, So, think about those kind of things. If you're going to have girls come into your store for certain hours to buy corsages and pick their things out, think about the music that you play. Who doesn't walk into a department store and think about the music? So have your cookie cutter ones that want the traditional, and you can whip those out and get them out the door. But when you have someone who you take a little more time with, and they want something special, you charge for that something special. And I guarantee you they're not going to balk you at the price at all. So Fits has lots and lots of marketing demos, and I know they have certain parts of the website here at Pioneer that are dedicated to helping you market all of those. So ideas, and I can show you how to make this stuff all day long, but it's up to you to go back and realize how you can mesh it into your marketplace and how you can help sell it to your customers. So remember that you sell yourself first. That's an important thing. People can look at this and be beautiful all day long, but you have to sell yourself first so they can trust you in that customer service. So.